All right, everybody, welcome back to the Flying Doghouse. We did a cross-country flight from Concord Regional over to Asheville last week, and I mentioned that we would do a flight from Asheville over to Winston-Salem, and I've changed the weather settings in 2024 to give us some good snow on the ground. So we're going to fly from Asheville over to Smith Reynolds Airport in Winston-Salem, and we're going to do that in the Cessna 208. And we're going to pause recording here for just a second, and when we come back, we will be at the end of the runway 35, ready to take off from Asheville. All right, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're sitting at the end of the runway in Asheville in our trusty Cessna 208B Caravan. And we're going to have a fly from Asheville over to Winston-Salem. Well, let's go ahead and get rolling. All right, let's see. Park and brake off. And we will run them up. And airspeed is definitely alive, and we're up. And flaps are up. We will follow runway heading here for a bit. And we will make our turn off to the east. All right, let's jump outside the plane. All right, so we have had some snow in the Carolinas. I did go in and customize the weather today to get the snowfall back on the ground after our weather moved through last weekend. And we're almost down to our nav point. Go ahead and make our turn. All right, so we're going to make our way across the foothills of North Carolina into the Piedmont. Alright, so the controls today do seem to be behaving. See if we can get the autopilot to work here. I think we set the altitude at about 6,200 feet. Vertical speed mode on. And we'll set our heading here for about 076. That turned on. And we'll let the plane get stabilized here. We'll be out of the control area for Asheville shortly. And we can jump back inside the plane. Apologies for the voice today. Lighting turned on here in the cabin. All right. Make our passengers maintain their seat belts. All right. So if you're not familiar with this part of North Carolina, this is the Blue Ridge Mountains. Jump outside the plane. So we will be making our way several different cities here. We'll have Morganton and Hickory and be along the flight path here. It's interesting with the way the sim is rendering the snowfall on the ground. See all of the road structures and all these switchbacks. If you get car sick, this is probably not a great place to ride around. But it's indeed beautiful terrain for sure. So I'd be real curious in the comments below if you want to drop a comment. Let me know if you've been having problems with your controllers or the sim in general with crashes to desktop. I've had more than my fair share since the upgrade. I would say that CTDs are now not out of the ordinary. I had a few in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. It looks like frame rate tonight is good as far as our server response. Seems to be rendering rather smoothly. About, let me get to our target altitude. Yeah, we are at our target altitude of 6,200 feet. And we'll track close to the magenta line here. Well, the Caravan is a lot of fun to fly. And I think as we progress through this North Carolina tour, we'll switch airframes up, but the first couple of these in the Caravan. I may switch over to the 172 for the next leg. We'll do the Greensboro area, and then we'll make our way over to Raleigh Durham. So we'll probably leave from Winston-Salem and then touch and go at Greensboro and do a few general aviation airfields there that I'm familiar with, and then we'll make our way over to Raleigh. A cold winter morning here in the Carolinas. They are forecasting winter weather again for us. Maybe we'll actually get some in the Charlotte area this time. So we're about halfway between Asheville and Morganton. So this part of North Carolina was also heavily damaged with Hurricane Helene. Back off to our 7 o'clock would be Black Mountain. That community was particularly hit very hard. But you can imagine all these high hills, and then all these valleys rapidly filling up with 40 inches of rain. Not a recipe for pleasantness. Alright, let's jump back inside the plane again. Alright, we're now 87 miles out. Well, that was interesting. Not quite sure what that was. Alright, we're currently on autopilot. We are almost Morganton. We're making pretty good time here. We'll get back outside the plane. That large body of water behind us is Lake James. And right now we're over the town of Morganton. We do have two airports that are relatively close to us. We have Morganton and Lenore. Which would be to our 11 o'clock. And then to our 1 o'clock, we would then have Hickory Regional. This part of North Carolina is rich in lots of different kinds of history, but furniture manufacturing would be one thing that I would specifically call out. And we can see the Morganton Lenore Airport pretty clearly here. Ah, the joy of cold season. And we're making our way out of the foothills now, so we're well on our way being into the middle part of the state, the Piedmont of North Carolina. I guess this is still technically foothills, but it's much less hilly than where we were before. Let's jump in the plane, check to see our mileage progress toward Winston. Okay, we're 68.1 nautical miles out. Yeah, looks like we're got all of our temperatures operating in the green, so that's good. Guess I could put the map up. Or not. 2020 just has a mind of its own. Keyboard shortcut's not working. Well, no biggie. Not gonna sweat that right now. Alright, so we're coming into a VOR. Number of different intersecting air routes here, so lots of aircraft traffic. That's very interesting. Keyboard shortcut did not work, but it let me load it from the menu at the top. Alright, you can see how big the control area is for Charlotte. If you're not familiar with Charlotte Douglas, that is the 8th busiest airport in the world. So there is a lot of FedEx and UPS traffic in and out of the airport, in addition to international flights and domestic routes operating out of Charlotte Douglas. They just keep adding to that airport. It's huge. And we'll close it. All right, we're well on our way to Winston. We can go ahead now and start managing some altitude here. All right, we'll go ahead and drop down to about 4,500 feet as we make our way across. This is a very agriculturally rich area in terms of North Carolina, so lots of things you might see here. Interestingly enough, there's a number of vineyards located in this part of North Carolina. And the airport that we're going to land at is Smith Reynolds in Winston. And I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on other flights, but Smith Reynolds was the original location for the headquarters of Piedmont Airlines. It was a regional carrier here in the southern United States, and operated quite a few routes. We have explored some of the 1948 route in the DC3, so that was fun. Flew all over North Carolina and South Carolina and into Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky. If you haven't flown the DC3, it's a wonderful plane in the sim. All right, we are now 39 miles out. Jump outside the plane again. And we'll go ahead and continue with our descent. Pop down now to about 3,400 feet. Just manage our height on the way in so that we're not rushing to do that at the last minute. Lots of very small general aviation airfields in this area, as well as a glider aerodrome. We're getting ready to now cross over another major interstate here. This is I-77. Well, it runs north-south. Go south on 77 from here. It'll take you to Charlotte. And north on 77 will take you up into Virginia. So this part of North Carolina was settled in the mid-1600s. Quite a lot of immigrants from Germany and from the Netherlands. And Winston-Salem was also the home of what was R.J. Reynolds Tobacco. And the other thing that you would find in this area in North Carolina are a lot of NASCAR race teams, if you are familiar with NASCAR racing. Quite a few folks employed here in North Carolina with that particular endeavor. And also quite a few wineries here as well, or vineyards. Oh, we are progressing nicely. And we're almost into the controls airspace here around Winston. Alright, we'll wait a few more minutes before we make our initial turn. I'm pretty happy with our altitude right now, so that's good. Jump back outside the plane. Next water feature ahead of us would then be the Yadkin River. This part of North Carolina is actually part of where my family is from, so that would be over here off of our 3 o'clock. Beautiful plot of land, dairy farm. And as any flight simmer who also builds scenery would do, it just seemed to be totally appropriate for me to put an airstrip on the back part of the family farm. And had a good deal of fun with that. So, hangars and scatter and fencing, and because it's a dairy farm, you have to have cows. Some farm equipment and some hay bales and all that kind of fun stuff. And the highway that we're going over right now is US 421, another major roadway here in the Carolinas. Yeah, we should be closing in on our first nav point. Alright, guess we'll get back in the cockpit here. And we'll come off of autopilot. Ourselves a little bit of a nose up attitude here and start burning off some airspeed. Get ourselves closer to the white arc so that we can deploy flaps at the appropriate time. And right ahead of us at 12 o'clock would be downtown Winston-Salem. A little bit difficult to make out with the sun where it is. What else would you want to know about Winston-Salem? A very large medical research hospital located here. Wake Forest University. And they have minor league baseball and I grew up in this part of North Carolina, so it's anytime I do a flight in this area, it's a bit of a nostalgia trip, I guess is a good way of putting it. We're at 3,800 feet, so we need to be losing some altitude again. And this lake that we're coming up on is a good geographical reference point for making your approach into the runway. Yeah, we're now at 2,900 feet. Actual above sea level altitude here is, I mean, it varies obviously, but usually somewhere around 1,000 feet ish. I believe Smith Reynolds is 945 feet. Jump back out of the plane. Alright, so we did a little bit of a flyabout in the area around the airport. And this should put us onto an approach for runway 22. And what I may do is I may just overfly. So this will be the original runway from the 1940s. So we'll just do an overflight here and say hello to folks in the tower. This particular airfield, easy for me to say, this particular airfield has also been handcrafted. It's available for free over on Flightsim.to. Had quite a bit of customization work done on it. It's very, very good. And the set of buildings is right off of our nose right now. An additional educational facilities for Forsyth Tech. Guess I could aviate instead of narrate. Anyway, the scenery developer did a terrific job with the airport. Alright, so we'll Just teardrop our way around here and have a very short final. And we'll go for runway 33. We got quite a bit of turbulence today. Alright. Let's see what we can do here. Get ourselves swung around. Just taking our time dealing with this turbulence. All right. Well, there we go. A successful leg here over from Asheville. Again, this airport is quite good, so I'll put a link in the description below to download the airfield. I'm sure that the scenery developer would appreciate a donation if you were so inclined. And if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. And we'll be continuing with our Freeware series, so we've got part 4 of that coming up. A couple of group flights scheduled. Just invite you to come along. Alright, we'll make our way over here into parking. And we'll park over here near the control tower. Oh. Unlike having an airplane spawn in right in front of you. Alright, there we go. I'm going to leave it here. Thanks again for coming along. Hope everybody is keeping well. And until next time, cheers, y'all.